quit. This was a text message my boss received from one of her employees this summer. This is one example of how our society is becoming increasingly dependent on text messaging, even with the most delicate of conversations. Now, text messaging is a good thing. I'm a fan of texting. It allows us to easily and conveniently communicate with one another. However, there are situations in our lives where texting should not replace face-to-face interaction. Today, I would like to discuss how text messaging and overusing texting can decrease our ability to communicate with one another, as well as decrease the opportunity we have to strengthen our relationships with each other. Just how prevalent is texting? To find out, I conducted a survey. I polled over 200 people in our community, and I asked them, what form of communication do you use more than any other? Here are the results. Blue indicates text messaging. We can see clearly that as the generations get younger and younger, texting becomes the predominant form of communication used. So if we're using texting so much more than we used to, what kinds of activities are we doing through texting that used to be handled through face-to-face communication? Well, here are some interesting ideas that will be pertinent to us here at BYU. In this same survey, I asked males 18 to 34 if they've been asking girls on dates through texting. Now keep in mind that the results of this survey are pertinent to us. Over half of those who replied to this survey were males at BYU. 45%. Almost half of those in our community are using texting to ask girls on dates. Here's another interesting thing to think about. Breaking up with someone. I think we can all agree that this is a delicate conversation, and it used to happen face-to-face. Yet in our society with the luxury of texting, 11% of people admitted to breaking up with someone through text messaging. We can say that this is a problem, but why does it matter? Again, text messaging can impair our ability to develop good communication skills. It can also hurt our relationships with other people. It can prevent us from growing closer to people. With regard to communication skills, Sherry Torkel, an MIT psychologist and an expert on this topic, very concerned about the rising generation and how much we are using text messaging. She talks about something many of us may be familiar with. It's called the text apology. Apologizing can be an uncomfortable thing, and so many of us opt to send a message and say you're sorry instead of facing them. But Dr. Torkel talks about how this is not really communicating that you're sorry. She talks about how there are many steps to communication, and they are all bypassed when we text. So what exactly are we bypassing when we text message? Well, for starters, we don't get the opportunity to verbally express ourselves, develop listening skills, use eye contact or body language. We, as BYU students studying public speaking and understanding how to better communicate one with another, we understand the importance of our voice, how the tone of our voice can literally change the meaning of a sentence. We also understand how important eye contact can be. These are all things that cannot be relayed through a text message, and our communication skills cannot improve when we're not employing these important principles of communication. Secondly, the opportunity to develop a stronger relationship with another person. This can be impaired when we overuse text messaging. Heidi S. Swinton was chosen by the prophet Thomas S. Monson himself to write his biography. This is an inspired woman who has served the church in many capacities. I would like to share a quote with you from Sister Swinton. This quote applies to each and every one of us who'd like to bring our lives in closer harmony with the Lord's will. She says, "At a time when texting and emailing have replaced sitting down together, President Monson is constantly reminding us to reach out to one another." He shared this message through the words of a member who wrote him a letter. "The prayers of people are almost always answered by the actions of others." Now, I'm not saying that text messaging or a text message can't be the answer to someone's prayer, but I am asking you to consider how a personal visit could be of much more value. How can a personal visit improve your relationship with someone? I'd like you to ponder that. Now, there is a first step towards a solution. This is not the ultimate solution, however, it is a good first step that each of us can do this week. Now, I've done this myself, and at first it was a little uncomfortable. So some of you may be a little surprised when you hear this, but I would like each of you to think of a day this week. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whenever. Imagine that day. Now, on this day, I would challenge each and every one of you to go this full day without texting a single person. Text no one. Some of you may be thinking something like this, a little apprehensive to go a full day without texting. However, as I've said, I've taken this challenge on myself. And this one day away from texting, although I was a little uncomfortable with it at first, it helped me to evaluate where my communication skills were at, when I was uncomfortable calling someone instead of texting them, when I was uncomfortable maybe visiting someone in person, and it helped me to realize where I need to improve. This also helped me to improve my relationships with other people, because as I chose to decrease the amount of text messages I sent and increase the amount of real communication I spent with people, I really noticed that my relationships with them grew in a way that they couldn't have grown if I had merely texted them. I know that as we increase the amount of real face-to-face communication we have, our communication skills will improve and our relationships will also improve. And one day we won't have to text our boss that we're quitting, because today we can choose to quit relying on text messaging.